Hello and welcome to Matches of the Day. I'm Gary Lineker, and to my left is Gary Lineker.
Hi.
And to his left is Gary Lineker.
Hi.
And to his left is Gary Lineker.
Hi.
And to his left is Ms. Gary Lineker.
Hey.
And to his left, her left, is also Gary Lineker.
Hi.
How are we all? It's been a while. This is the most packed we've been for a long, long time. So, of course, I'm your host, Mr. Ryan Parrish, and joining me, Miss Keith Bloomfield.
Hello, everybody.
Miss Lee Price.
Hello.
Miss Matt Lovell.
Hello.
Miss Shanice Coulter. And joining us after a long... It's been a good few years since we last were on the show.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Sam Edwards, if you remember back in the old Brim Radio days.
Hello. Very brief appearances rather than regular, but yeah.
Yes. So, today we're going to be talking about John Wick 4. It is the anniversary of the Steam Deck, so we'll be talking about the Steam Deck. And we'll introduce Matt and maybe play a little bit of a game, but we shall see you shortly.
Right, coming up on March 24th is the fourth instalment of the greatest action franchise of the 21st century, starring
Fast and the Furious.
The inconsistent titles.
starring the nicest man in Hollywood,
Vin Diesel.
Mr. Keanu Reeves, and that film is going to be John Wick 4, which is the fourth entry in the franchise, as you can probably guess from the word 4 in the title.
I mean, to be fair, there are plenty of franchises where that is not true.
But, stylishly, John Wick puts the 4 at the end, which is, a bit of a deviation from a lot of franchises. You stick it halfway in the middle for some reason.
Well, I still don't understand why the third one needed a subtitle and the rest of them haven't.
Yeah, well, it was Parabellum, it was fancy. But I'm hoping that this one goes back to more like the second chapter in the franchise, which is my personal favourite so far, because I thought that one just expanded the mythos of the films. So anybody who doesn't know John Wick, basically the first film starts out with John as a retired assassin who is drawn out of retirement when some bad guys basically kind of kill his dog. So which is enough to bring any assassin out of retirement, and he goes on a murder spree for the rest of it with some of the most brilliantly choreographed stunt action ever committed to film. Amps it up in the second film, which also features the probably one of the greatest endings of a film ever. The third one kind of fumbled the ball a little bit, sent John on a bit more of a kind of globe-trotting adventure across, meets Halle Berry and a couple of dogs who like to chomp on nuts. And we then are now at the fourth episode of this franchise, which brings in kind of Lawrence Taylor and Lawrence Reddick and Ian McShane, who is basically, a Lovejoy. And he's hopefully going to take the action beyond anything we've seen before. People who have seen it already have kind of said it's the most spectacular of the franchise so far. And I'm kind of looking forward to it, really. I'm quite excited.
So,
Can I ask you a question?
No, you go.
No. Can I ask you a question, Keith? When you said, for anyone who doesn't know, and then you exclusively stared down Matt, is that by chance Matt's way of saying he hasn't seen John Wick, or was that...
I'm not sure it's whether it
There was
something
a hard
that
stare.
Matt would be kind of into. Have you seen John Wick?
I've not seen any John Wicks.
Oh.
But it's
Your
not
John
through...
Ted senses were tingling.
It's not through the fact that I wouldn't want to watch them. I've just never sat down to watch them, really.
Well, luckily for you, all three films are currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can see all three of the John Wick films.
At no extra cost?
Well, if you're a Prime member, yeah, at no
Okay.
extra cost.
Good.
But they're probably only a couple of quid on iTunes.
I do
or
need to
whatever it is.
rewatch the first two because I don't remember what happened in them, either of them.
Yeah.
I think the plot for all of them is pretty paper thin, to be honest. It's John Wick kills lots of people in interesting
Spectacular
and novel ways.
murder
Yeah.
is basically what it is.
Yeah. But I know Chad Stahelski, so was he Keanu Reeves' stunt double for a long time?
He was definitely involved with his stunts in things like The Matrix and whatnot. Yeah.
So he's basically been the director all the way through this franchise. And it's...
Yeah. He's kind of been the director on all four. As well. There was other people involved across the first episode as well, kind of an uncredited guy whose name is I've forgotten, but Ryan will tell me.
Which one?
Which
Scott
one?
Adkins?
No. You want the first film?
Oh, going back.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just fill the time. Just
One
just
moment, caller.
watch just pop off and watch John Wick 1, 2.
So John Wick 1. So we had
Be the creator.
directed by Chad Stahelski, written by Derek Kolstad.
Derek Colston. Yeah, he kind of co-directed the first one, uncreditedly. Yeah, but the first one kind of is more your kind of average action flick, kind of standard, kind of fare. But it's where it introduces the whole kind of like mythos of what all these assassins are. The kind of bigs up the Continental, which is a kind of international safe space for any assassin to kind of go and relax. Common appears in it. You know, there's loads of great action sequences in all the films. You know, he stabs somebody with a pencil. It's stunning. I love it.
I completely forgot that John Leguizamo was in the first movie.
Yeah. Well, he turns up. Yeah, he turns up kind of briefly as well. And there's a cop who kind of knows of John's things. I mean, it spawned comic books. There's been a comic book series through Dynamite. There's been 2 games so far.
I know there's been John Wick Hex.
Yeah, I think there was another one which was.
But I don't know about the second one.
I can't remember what the other one was.
I mean, I mostly know about that because of listening to the Play Watch Listen podcast,
Yeah.
which has Mike Bithell, who was the director of John Wick Hex,
Yeah.
so he's talked about it a few times.
Yeah, so it's been kind of. This one was supposed to come out in 2021. And then
It was going to be out in the same
pandemic
year as the Matrix
Resurrections.
sequel. Yeah.
The year of Keanu,
Yeah,
because that was
and
Cyberpunk
they were
as
going to
well.
make John Wick 5 back to back with this, but obviously that didn't happen in the end. So there's a 5th film planned. Keanu has said he'll keep making them while they're successful. There's 2 spin-off series. There's the Ana de Armas ballerina show, which will follow kind of the some of the characters that were kind of introduced in the 3rd film, and also there's going to be a prequel series based around the Continental, so that's kind of like the Assassin's Hotel across the world. But one of the big things that's come out of this franchise being so successful and this film coming up, and this one is kind of one for you, Sam, a little bit, is that the discussions come up about Oscars for stunt performers, because there has never been one in terms of like congratulating the people involved in stunts. And if we think about all the films that we kind of gravitate to in terms of action fare, and to be honest, in a lot of other films out of the action genre, the stunt work is something that is always spectacular but never acknowledged. And the people who are working on these films, whether it be the Fast and Furious franchise, John Wick, True Lies, any of the kind of James Cameron, Terminators, all the rest of it, there's a lot of work going on in the stunts, and I think it is time that the Academy did acknowledge the fact that there are a lot of very, very good people.
Well,
working
I
in
was
this
thinking
industry.
in terms of like with Everything Everywhere All at Once getting all those awards, how many stunt performers worked on that? Because so much of it is just martial arts.
So I know they have their own version of their own award ceremony, a bit like the Globes, etc. There's a stunt awards focus. I'm thinking the nickname is the Stunties, surprisingly. But I know it's gotten a lot more publicly recently. So Corridor Crew, which is one of the bigger YouTube channels, they have something called Stuntmen React, where they'll get people like Scott Adkins on, Guy, and quite a few stunt people on to explain the process of how they work out the sequence, how they make sure everybody's safe, what kind of injuries that you're going to have on there. So like they'll go over and like look at Jackie Chan's films from the 80s and then look at the impact of those and how that works out. And I think it's got a lot more noticed how much stunt performers put in recently. I think it's one of those things, as I said, the Oscars seem to be missing out on.
Yeah, it's definitely a gap in there because, like you say, there's so many different skills that go into it. It's not just what people would first think of oh, it's just someone who goes and takes a punch kind of thing. There is all the safety stuff. They have to actually be able to act as well. There's a real skill to it, and there's a lot of people doing it, and they deserve some sort of credit. And
it's a technical role. It's the same as being a grip or being an electrician or being on site.
I think the Academy tried to
stunt
get
technician.
Yeah, they tried to get around it by saying they don't know who to award it to. But I think if they just create a category
coordinators.
for stunts, there's a category for visual effects, there's a category for hair and makeup, there's a category for, pretty much everything. I think they could just have a stunts performance and then basically, everybody involved in the team on that film get awarded.
Yeah,
and it's not like
if it's like they need someone to come up and do a speech, then it should be the stunt coordinator,
Yeah.
like the guy in charge of that.
But, I mean, the teams are going to be big, and it's the same with the visual effects. Kind of, when they give the visual effects on Sunday to Avatar, they're not going to get everybody that worked on it up there.
Population of a small country.
But they'll get the lead visualizer or whoever.
Same
exactly.
with like best director. You don't get the second director. You don't get like all the assistant directors up on screen, do you? It's just the director. So that's the figurehead for that film.
So I think if Keanu's behind it, and I think there is a big move, and it's particularly like Lee says, if something like Everything Everywhere All at Once walks off with that, and even if it's something like All Quiet on the Western Front, there's a lot of stunt work going on in there as well. So I think
which is exactly the sort of thing you're saying about like things you wouldn't think of would have stunt performances in it.
And I think if you look back at any of the Oscar winners over the years, somewhere in there will be some kind of stunt
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And there's more recognition for those sort of big blockbusters that will have more stunt people in as well, like Top Gun and Avatar being nominated for Best Picture this year. The Oscars are starting to realise that people the films that everyone pays to see are also sometimes good films.
Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's bad.
No,
I think that's what they need to get out of this whole phrase of that. That's always been the thing with the Oscars, just because they've ignored the popular movies. MCU, which I know Lee.
I mean, that's because they're all bad.
But I'm saying it's still popular movies. Endgame was the first one that got any kind of recognition because it was 20 movies deep in, and it's like, it's kind of a bit like the Return of the King. The Lord of the Rings movies, when they came out, they were the 3 most popular movies by a mile, and Fellowship and Two Towers got nothing at all, and then it was Return of the King got the most lauded film ever, which has now just been overtaken by Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I'd say Black Panther was probably the first one that got recognition at the Oscars
Oh,
from the
yeah.
MCU.
True.
I think got nominated for Best Picture, but certainly a few other nominations as well.
Yeah, but I think not really won anything until Endgame. I think that one quite a few. But do we think John Wick's running out of steam now?
No, because it's got Keanu in it, so
So did Cyberpunk, Keith. I'm still damaged from that.
I mean, if it does die down, you've always got the manga sort of equivalent of it called Sakamoto Days. A retired assassin, slightly rotund, adorable. Keanu Reeves isn't rotund, but it's that retired assassin. Something pulls him back into the world. He is having to get involved in the world to make sure his family's safe. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. The art style on that is cracking. So if John Wick ever dies out, you've got Sakamoto Days.
And even better than that, I'm currently reading a comic book series called Good Boy, which is basically what if it was the opposite way around, and it was the human who died and the dog that went on an avenging rampage of murder.
You
and
mentioned this last time, I think.
And it's great. It's preposterous. But I think the thing with John Wick, what I love about the series is it doesn't take itself seriously. Outside of it's created a world and it sticks within it. And so I think the first film very much plays to the kind of normal kind of action tropes, and the second one just doubles down on all of the kind of like huge kind of hidden behind the scenes assassins. You've got telephonists with telex machines putting out bounties on everybody, and the ending on that film when they put the bounty out on John at the end because he goes against the rules of being an assassin. It's just a phenomenal ending of a film. I love it. It made me want the third one even more, and it's one of those few occasions where I come out of a film and go, I want to go and see that right away again. But I thought Parabellum dropped the ball a little bit, felt a bit muddled, felt like it was just treading water a little bit.
So I think Mark Dacascos was a bad pick for the villain in that, because all I could think of was Iron Chef when he's wandering around, just gonna pull out a pepper at some point.
Well, he was Dying Freeman in a few of the films before, and been in a couple of
Crying Freeman, you mean?
Crying Freeman, yeah. I think if you like action and you don't like cars much, but saying that, he does drive a cool car as well. So, and I think they probably don't say family as much, although there is a family as well. And there's no Vin Diesel. So
Fast and the Furious John Wick crossover one.
You know what? I would actually probably watch that if it went down that there was a John Wick. If we get to the point in the franchise where it's like John Wick 10,
John Wick in space.
Yeah, John Wick Space. John Wick versus Vin Diesel. I don't know what his name is in the character he plays. But yeah, that we
The
could
character
get
he
there.
plays is Vin Diesel.
But I do truly believe it is one of the greatest action franchises of the 21st century, and I think people should give it a try.
I definitely enjoyed it. I just don't remember anything that happened in those
Yeah.
first films.
So you got
Just-
Donnie Yen, Bill Skarsgård, and Clancy Brown, I think, are
Yeah,
adding into this
Clancy
one.
Brown,
So
this one.
interesting mix because it's going after the high table if you followed the previous franchise. But yeah, so out very soon over here,
March 24th in the UK.
and I think it's May 23rd or something in the US. So
Yeah, suck it, Americans.
get something first for a change.
yeah, normally it's the other way around.
So Keith will be there opening night, and we'll probably have a review. At some
I'll
point.
tell you my thoughts on John Wick 4 as soon as I get back from it. Yeah.
All right, so that's a whole episode booked for Keith to talk about John.
Yeah.
And for Matt to just sit in front of him, just getting informed.
Yeah, there'll be some Keanu
There will be
related
slides.
sideways.
There'll
Yeah.
be slideshows.
There'll be a whole presentation.
There'll be Keanu's career from the beginning.
I shall pose my John Wick action figure to reproduce sequences from the film for you as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be good. Cool.
Just don't get an Ian McShane action figure though, do you?
Oh God, I would love to meet that figure. Yeah,
Can you get a dead dog figure? Or is that too far?
that's probably a bit much.
Yes. You could probably just get a dog and just put it on its side, to be honest. Just got a Lovejoy figure in my head.
So the Steam Deck is a year old now. You might know, this is the Valve-made handheld device which hooks up to the Steam service and allows you to play your Steam library on the go, basically. Released February 25th, 2022, and it's mostly a handheld, but you can plug it in to a monitor, correct? I'm not the person to talk about all the tech side of things because I am terrible at any of that, but it's very good from the brief bit of playing with it that I did today. This is Ryan's own Steam Deck that he brought from home.
Yes. So this was the 512 gig model because there's a 128 gig, 256 gig, and a 512 gig.
Why would you get the lowest size one?
Well, the reason I went for the 512 was because there is the base and the mid model have a really horrible glossy screen, where this one has kind of like a nano etched coating, which makes it a bit more visible outside of the house. And you can upgrade it with micro SD storage, so you could enhance that 128 gig storage if you bought the base model, but it's the screen that I think makes the big difference.
All I can think of with like the lowest size one is just like Call of Duty Warzone would just take up all of that space. Not that I would play it, but you know.
No, the reason I thought it was have a discussion because it's been out for a year. It's never going to do Switch numbers as such.
I mean, it's not going to be the third best-selling console of all time.
But we've all had a bit of a go on it. I think we were all playing a bit Doom earlier, so I was just wondering what your impressions are of it as a console. So I love it. It's great for when I'm out, and it's great for when I'm on the go. But it just feels slightly too wide, I think. For
It is big.
Yeah.
But I mean, like playing around with Doom on it, it's genuinely kind of impressive how good it looks and how well it runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it's a 720p screen. 1280 by 800, so slightly over 720p.
Okay.
But for something that's 7 inches big, I think that's a perfectly reasonable trade-off. You don't need a 4K screen on a device that size.
Oh, some people will argue that you do, considering how many people complain about the Switch not having a 4K screen, but you know.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the refresh rate on it?
60 hertz.
Okay.
And if there was a Steam dock, which goes alongside the Steam Deck, which I've still not been able to get over here in the UK, I think it's US only at the moment, which is really annoying. But if you dock it, you can run up to 8K at 60 hertz or 4K at 120 hertz, which is pretty strong performance.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Because we've all got Switches in the room, so I just thought it'd be good to have a comparison and see what we think compared to it.
I mean, what's the library like in terms of like? Are there Steam games that are incompatible with it?
Yes. So there is a giant laundry list of every game on the Steam service. And I think there's kind of they're going through and saying this one's good on Steam or this one can play, but you might a few bugs. It's a bit like if you think back into the days of if you ever downloaded an emulator, there's the standard games which will run perfectly smooth, perfectly fine because it's Linux based. So any game that's natively Linux runs perfectly fine on Steam Deck. There'll be some which have the little quirks and features where some sounds might be missing or some textures might be missing, and then there's just broken, unplayable stuff. So I think if you ever played a SNES emulator back in the day, there was always a big issue around the games using the 3DFX chips, where like the Star Fox games.
I think that was why Star Fox and Super Mario RPG and something else, I think possibly Yoshi's Island, like just didn't release on like the Wii Virtual Console because of issues like that, because they hadn't quite figured out the emulation issues yet. They'll run now, but you know.
But I just thought to me personally, I think it's probably the best way of getting PC gaming into people's hands if you've not got your own PC, not got time to build one. It kind of bridges that gap between what we think of as a console, like an Xbox, a PlayStation 5, a Switch, and a gaming PC as such.
With the form factor, I can see that it would work for things like first-person shooters and whatnot. But one of the big kind of stalwarts of PC gaming is kind of strategy games and stuff.
Yeah.
Does that work on a screen that small?
That's why it has a docked mode, basically. So you can get docks. There's loads of docks on Amazon, and it runs everything off USB-C. I think it's Thunderbolt. So basically, plug it in, and then you get HDMI, multiple USBs. So what you can do is, I've got a dock that sits alongside that. You slot it in, put the USB-C cable in, and then it breaks out into those. So you could functionally use that as a full-on PC, and some people have actually put Windows on them and use them as their actual portable PC, rather than taking a laptop with them, which is quite shocking, to be honest.
That was the thing that I always thought when it was announced, was just like, oh yeah, there's plenty of games that would run really good on that, and then I look at Civ in my library and I'm just like, absolutely not. It's not something I'd run handheld.
I mean, saying that though, because Civ is on Switch, because I've got it.
But even then,
Switch.
I'm like, I wouldn't.
It's complicated, but you can still do it. Yeah.
But why would you?
Yeah.
Is my thinking more than anything else.
And it supports Bluetooth as well. So if you are running that breakout cable, you can still use a Steam controller if you've got one gathering dust somewhere in your house.
The 3 people in the world who own a Steam controller.
Or a PS4, PS5 controller, Xbox controller, or even a Google Stadia controller if you've got one of those floating around.
I'm never excited over there. What's its kind of multimedia functionality like? Because one of the things with like Switch is people use it to watch YouTube and do other things. So have you got all of that kind of multimedia stuff?
So you can install any Chromium-based browser. So you can put Edge on there. You can put Chrome itself. I think there's a Firefox out there for it as well now. It's basically the same as any Linux distro. So if you're running something like Mint or Red Hat or any of those Linux distros, you could...
Yes, I know what those things are, yes.
Yeah, you could use one of those distros and those. But I've got the Edge browser installed on that, and you can actually do... So if you've got Game Pass and do Game Stream, there's basically a workaround where you can use the Edge browser to do Game Stream to your Steam Deck. So you could even access your Game Pass library.
I'm sure I've heard people have actually managed to get the Xbox thing running itself properly as well.
I've not delved into that as much, to be honest, because I've got enough games on Steam, and I think so. Out of the over 1,000 games I have on Steam, I think over 100. I think it's 122 are great on deck. Is how they rate them, and then there's another raft of games which are this will run reasonably.
I feel sorry for whoever had to go through the entire Steam library to assess them all, because there's first of all so many of them, but also there's so many just hentai games.
Most of them which are just Sudoku with a dirty background.
The genuine fury like behind that.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily there, oh, cool, this is going to sort me out for the night. But I'm also a little bit like, don't lie to me. Like, I haven't bought them.
But as a result, you're very good at Sudoku now.
I've never seen those pop up in a Humble Bundle at the moment.
I'm terrible, I can never concentrate.
I think with the Steam Deck, one of the kind of what we were saying earlier, it's the how it diversifies and provides PC gamers like diversity as well. So one of my friends, we're very avid PC gamers, but he's got a very small child, so he's there being like, I can't like play my games and sort of mind my child, but actually he can play some of his indie games on his Steam Deck while
Yep.
while they're in the room and that kind of thing. And quite a few other people who I know who've got Steam Decks are saying things like, it's brilliant because I can finally start going through my indie library on Steam.
Yeah.
Because when I'm on my PC, I will be playing my AAA games.
Yeah.
So actually, it provides that bit more extra versatility, I think, as well.
Oh, say that again.
Versatility.
I think one of the joys for me is it means that I can still spend time with Biv and be in the same room as her and not be there hunched over my PC, because that's your traditional PC gaming experiences. You sat there with the keyboard and mouse and there's tunnel visioned completely into what you're playing.
And as someone who does have a PC that's good enough to play games, there's a lot of times I'm just like, I can't be bothered to play games on PC because it feels like work.
Yeah.
Because if I'm on my computer all day, writing and editing videos, and then it's like, now I'm going to go over here and play, it's like, that's why the PS5 is basically my main system.
Yeah.
I think it's the same. I'm a Mac user. I've never been a PC user, so I've not a lot. Outside of Marathon.
You get about 4 games.
Outside of Marathon and the Muppet Treasure Island game, I've never really played games on the Mac. And I think for me, the form factor and the price, where I am with my gaming infrastructure, is I've got my Series S for kind of main gaming, big titles. That's set up with the TV. I've got my Switch, which is predominantly for the Nintendo games, but it has got a very good indie library. And I think after that, I'm more at the kind of Game Boy form factor emulator machines that are kind of seem to be dropping out the sky like rain at the moment. We seem to have a new one launched every other week. So I think for me, the kind of games that they're playing, the form factor and the price just kind of push it to that kind of I'd like one, but I don't think I can justify it in my kind of
I think it
gaming lifestyle.
Fulfills a very specific niche of if you've been a PC gamer, and like I have been for years, and you built a rack of games up onto a library as such. I would probably never buy anything to put onto the Steam Deck because I've got so many games on PC that I would never get through. But it means that if I go away, if I'm working overnight somewhere else, I can throw that into a bag and then still play something like Yakuza 0 or Resident Evil 2.
I think this comes to the point when I was saying of just I can't be bothered to play on PC. Something like that is great because all the Steam games I've got, if I'm in that mood, but I feel like I want to play one of these, I can go on the sofa with it.
Yeah.
And I can relax with it, and it's it's good for that purpose, I think.
Yeah, and as I said, if you don't own an Xbox or a PlayStation and you've come from traditional PC gaming, you could drop that into a dock and plug that into your TV, and then you're away.
It's certainly easier and more relaxing to play than that ginormous scorpion chair you chose at Christmas.
I don't know. I mean,
to be able to lie back and watch
and Matt and Sam, you've not really jumped in at this one. I think Shanice is too busy playing.
The faces are disgusting. I love it. I absolutely love it. Resident Evil 2.
For context, Shanice is playing Resident Evil 2, which doesn't mean the rest of the team.
Oh, disgusting.
But,
no, it's brilliant. It is big. Don't get me wrong. So for somebody who doesn't know Steam, I'm not a PC gamer. I'm a little Switch, little Nintendo. That's so super kawaii kind of person. But it's definitely, I can pick this up and it feels comfortable enough that I'm like, I have enough game logic to just fall into the game. It's a nice portable console. It's heavy as days, but you could really knock someone around the head if they were trying to bug you while you're playing games. It's cool. It looks nice. It's funky. I think for a non-Steam player, this would encourage me to play it if it didn't have such a high markup. When I'm already a tight arse, like all of us are, because we spend all of our money on gaming strip.
To be honest, it's not actually that much of a high markup. They're actually making a considerable loss on every single sale. If you had a similar spec, something from Aya or the other company, can never remember the name. There's quite a few companies, Chinese companies, which are knocking out similar things to a Steam Deck, and they're usually Windows-based, and it'll be an Intel processor or AMD. They're usually coming in around about £1,000 to £1,200 for a similar spec machine, and slightly more functionality because they're Windows-based. But that is probably as powerful, if not more, than an Xbox One X or a PlayStation 4 in that form factor, which is the shocking thing about it.
So how much are we saying for this one that I'm holding currently in my hand?
So the launch price of this one close your ears, Viv, was £569. I didn't pay that much for it, but so the mid one was £459, and I think the base one was £350. But I think Computer Exchange were at the time of launch were at double to triple that price. But to me, I think, as I said, it fulfills a specific niche, and that's probably why my Switch has kind of gathered dust to a certain extent, because why would I have a Switch when I play that?
I think if you're a PC gamer,
Yeah.
and you've got GOG and you've got Epic Game Store, and you can pick up a load of free games every week, and you know, some of the cheaper indie games.
Steam sales are great.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a great investment. I think the price could do with coming sub 500.
It's slowly going down. And you don't have to go with the 512 gig model. The only reason I went was because of the extra capacity, and B, the screen, because I knew you'd be using it remotely.
Is there expandable?
Micro SD XC, so I think you can put up to a terabyte SD card in there.
Okay.
And if you're braver than I am, you can open it up. There is a guide online which shows you how to replace out the NVMe drive.
But is that like hot swappable, the SD slot? Could you store, you know, have a little wallet of multiple cards with all the different games on, and you just switch them out, kind of cart-wise?
I don't use it because it's got 512 gig storage, but I think you can. Or alternatively, plug in a remote hard drive through the USB-C port. You could plug in another SSD straight away and put that into your dock. And Sam, you've had a quick play on it. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything everyone else has said. I'm not a massive PC gamer. I think the only PC games I've really ever properly got into have been strategy ones, which I don't think I would want to play on this. But but like you were saying, the appeal at the end of the working day, the appeal of sitting at another computer is minimal. I want to stop out on the sofa with something that I barely need to think about. And at the moment, I've got the Switch for that, but I can absolutely see if I had a big library of Steam games on a PC, that would have to be.
It's been quite interesting to watch people play it, because everybody's gone straight for the thumbsticks and nobody's using the two trackpads or the buttons on the back.
I honestly didn't realise that was what
they were.
No.
So I don't, because I still have PTSD from using the Steam controller.
You were the one along with me, were
So
you, Matt?
yeah, so I was there being like, Valve can do no wrong. So when they released the Steam controller and the Steam Link, I bought both, and both were a massive disappointment. And so,
I mean, they did the Steam machines as well, which kind of, and I think this is kind of a distilled kind of. So you've got elements of the Steam controller in there, you've got elements of the Steam machines they made, and you've got elements of Steam Link in there where you can do remote play as well. So for me, I've got a much more powerful PC at home. I can stream games from that rather than you relying on the internal processor.
I kind of want to ask, because obviously we've not had it on, because it would be a distraction to the what we're talking about. Is what's the audio like? What's the kind of
It's
speaker
pretty good. I
arrangement?
mean, Matt, sorry, if you want to turn the speakers up. It's not too bad.
Just do a little bit of shoot 'em up. Shoot that guy in the face again.
Okay, so I'm not directly in front of that console, but the sound seems okay.
It's really it's fairly good for the size of the machine. I mean, I prefer headphones. There is a headphone socket on it, which instantly makes it better than any Apple product.
Would it work with Bluetooth headphones?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it has got Bluetooth as well. But yeah, having an actual headphone socket makes a big difference. As
Does
well.
it do kind of Dolby Atmos? Does it?
Yeah. So
do the kind of sound and stuff that would be supplied with the games? On
So
other systems?
undocked, it's stereo speakers or your choice of headphone, but it has digital output on there as well, again via USB-C. But
so if you docked it into your kind of home hi-fi system or whatever, you could get full surround sound. Okay, that's cool.
But what I would say is, if you were, Matt, Dota, could you imagine playing Dota on that maybe?
So I have considered getting one purely because I wouldn't be able to play Dota on it as it is, but being able to plug it into like a periphery and take it on the road, because it, as you said, it's cheaper than getting like a gaming laptop.
By a considerable mile as well.
And especially that kind of thing of, in my new job, there's a lot of travelling and that kind of thing. So actually, it'd be nice to be able to still play the games I want to play relatively easily. So I'd definitely give it a go.
Yeah. I mean, and it is rather flexible in the inputs. So you can have an on-screen keyboard. You've got the touch pads. It's a touch screen as well. So some games do support that quite nicely. There's more buttons than I think on any other kind of console that I've ever seen as before.
I suppose in the esports kind of
Yeah.
arena, it might be quite interesting because games like Rocket League, Smite, etc.,
Yeah.
where they're a bit like playing with controls, handheld controls, isn't necessarily as much of a disadvantage.
Yeah.
It might be quite good, or even just a case of, in the classic days of like having LAN parties, I think it'll be a bit more
Yeah.
for PC gamers. I suppose, again, it comes down to, I know we talked about the price before, but this strikes me as a very much kind of like our generation kind of product, really. I wouldn't necessarily see like a 16, 17-year-old getting this necessarily.
Yeah, and I think that's the tough sell. That's probably why they've gone direct to distribution. In most examples, you can pick it up in some stores, but if you were going into game, for example, and to use the terrible stereotypical example, a grandmother comes in and says, "I've been told I need to buy a games console for my child," any member of staff would have a really difficult struggle trying to explain the concept of that outside of something like an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Switch.
What's its battery life?
It's pretty good, to be honest. It's a good couple of hours usually. It depends on the game, so you can limit the performance, so you can drop that frame rate from 60 down to 30, turn certain effects off, turn the resolution down. I think it's got FSR in there now for certain games, which is AMD's version of DLSS, which basically means that it runs at a lower frame rate, then upscales the image so it looks much prettier. But I usually get good 2 to 3 hours out of it when I'm playing something like Yakuza 0, which is not an untaxing game at all.
It's a nice bit of kit.
I suppose the question is, would you buy that over a laptop and for gaming?
For gaming, yes. Just because I don't like gaming on a laptop.
Yeah, I think this is the form factor for like a gaming machine.
Yeah.
It's probably why I'm not a big PC gamer.
Yeah.
It's just the idea of, like everybody said, just being sat at a keyboard and mouse. I mean, I'm a console kid. It's kind of where I've, going from the Binatones to the Ataris to the, the Super Nintendos and all the rest of it, and handhelds. I mean, this, for some reason, this reminds me of Game Gear.
Yeah, it's very similar.
I don't know
Full colour
why.
screen, quite wide, quite heavy.
Kind of bulky kind of thing,
But I'd say for a first generation of device to be released, I'm incredibly impressed. And to be honest, I think it's worth the price that I paid for it. I'm hoping that another generation will follow in a couple of years. I think it's been successful in enough that Valve are happy with it.
Yeah.
They haven't confirmed the Steam Deck 2 as such yet, but I'd like to see it continue.
I think if every Steam game was playable,
Yeah.
that would make it incredibly attractive.
Yeah.
I think if you've got to muck about to get things to work, that becomes, because that's the beauty of things like a Switch, is you download the game, you put the cart in, it works.
I would
You have
say
a fun with
I'd
it.
say it's probably it's a kind of a factor of it being from PC gaming, because not every PC game runs on every PC and that sort of thing. So I imagine there's a factor of that going on.
And I would counter that saying it's an open platform and there's lots of other things that you can do, as a put the Game Pass on there. Maybe someone is going to work out and can import Epic Games onto there as well.
Yeah.
You could probably get away with running quite a lot of emulators up to a certain generation of consoles and without any struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, as an emulation station, I could imagine that would probably win over a lot of people for
I think
retro gaming.
at that size and that kind of hand position, I don't think I'd play that for more than a couple of hours at a stretch.
I don't think it's
you'd
designed
get-
to be played for more than a couple of hours, to be honest.
Yeah.
What I will say though, it feels a lot more comfortable because just playing my Switch in bed, hands cramp quite a lot after a while, and I've got like an add-on periphery to like make them proper handles. But I think in terms of a design,
I think
it's
for me, the thing with the Switch is what I tend to do quite a lot when I'm playing a handheld is pop the screen up. Obviously, the OLED has got the better kickstand, but I bought like a Poundland stand, so I quite like to be able to pop the screen off and just either use the little kind of joypad dock that you get, or just use it as, and that kind of just suddenly means I can play like Mario Kart for,
I always forget the
hours
sides
and
come
hours.
off.
I do.
I find that on the Switch to be one of its really good selling points. That I can just prop the screen up somewhere. I can lie in bed
And one of the
on
original
the side,
concepts,
and I've not got the whole screen,
think
so I
it's
can
got-
kind of just I've got my little controllers and I can do what I need.
So
to
I just
do.
go like that, and then I fall asleep and just hit myself in the face.
Every
Like,
time.
full on.
Smash.
Like-
I just love feeling like a giant when you do slip them off. You're like big man hands,
Just a
giant
little
son.
bitty,
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if I'd hooked that up to a Bluetooth controller and I'd prop that up somewhere and I was
and you
using
can
it,
get
using another-
stands and docks
yeah.
for it.
So
I mean, what original concepts did have the old slidey off sides, but they thought it'd be more sensible to have it just as a full device, mainly because people wouldn't then sit there in bed and whack themselves in the face to it twist.
I mean, it's a great.
So getting
I'm
close,
surprised that somebody hasn't released a peripheral with a hat that you slide it into, and you can kind of or a 3D.
But it has got that's the other thing which you're not even talked about. It's got thingy in it, so you can do
Gyroscope.
Okay. So you could use it with like gyroscope aiming for FPSs rather than relying on.
Because everyone wants
I do
gyroscopic
feel
aiming and FPSs.
Yeah.
it's.
I don't know. I've come to enjoy gyroscopic aiming. in
Oh
games.
no.
But I do.
It's Splatoon. It's great, and also in Tailframe actually.
I do feel you can feel it's designed for PC gamers though, because there is like 78 buttons on here,
And a
you go
touchscreen.
like what, and a touchscreen. You go, what do half the buttons do? It's like. It said. I got a game earlier. It said press start, and I had to ask Lee, well, "Where's the start button?"
Yeah, because you were playing Crazy Taxi, a game from like 2000 when it was still the start button.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been called the start button since 2013.
Burn keys.
Suppose to wrap this up, would you be interested if it was at the right price point?
If I was gifted it, definitely. If it was around the 350 mark, I'd possibly think I'd treat myself at the end of the year, maybe with some Christmas money.
Lee?
I'd be interested, but it is just a case of having the money to get it.
Yeah, true.
So
I mean, I want one, but I want one purely for impractical reasons because I just want one.
yeah.
How about yourself, Shanice? Has it impressed you today?
If I was the kind of girl that had a daddy, yes, I would. But haven't got daddy money, so I would love it. Don't get me wrong, it's actually really because once again with the Switch, I'm limited by Nintendo-like games.
Yeah.
That is just a big revel of all sorts of fun. So I would actually really enjoy it.
Yeah.
If I was rich for the dollar, yes.
How about yourself, Sam?
Same sort of thing, I think. Yeah, I'd be very happy to own one. It's just
If you had a daddy.
Whether I could get a daddy. If I had a daddy. Yeah.
Let's all get a daddy and get one.
Year 7. But we used to have a feature many years ago, which was called Poundshop Cosplay, where the rules was you got a £5 and you had to go and make up a cosplay using that £5 and your creativity. So we thought we'd revisit some of them, and it'll be on the side of the screen for people watching this on YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening to it, sorry, I can't really show the pictures in audio, but just imagine.
Do an audio description version.
So we thought we'd revisit some of our classic Poundshop cosplays, and then we're going to kick the feature back off again, I think, for this year, with Sam's interest in Halloween cosplays for cheap. I thought this would be a good relaunch
After
time.
we mentioned that at the beginning, and then we're bringing back Poundshop Cosplay, I was like, no, this is an unfair advantage here.
Cool. So we're going to show Matt, Shanice, and Sam some of the old historical Poundshop cosplays that we used to do.
Yeah.
So see if you can work out what they are.
Okay, so we got this is our first one. So I'll show you these. So basically, you've got here is you've got a bucket.
Yep.
Some fast food containers, silver fast food containers.
Yep.
Spread across his body, and then it looks like he's cling filmed himself. as well.
See, my first
There's a
guess-
cupboard light in the centre of the chest, which should be a big clue.
Oh
as
yes,
well.
there's a big cupboard light in there. So any guesses from our
Well, see,
guest
I looked
panel?
at that and I was like, oh, Black Knight, Monty Python, surely. But no, apparently not.
Is it Iron Man?
It is Iron Man Mark 1, or as I called him at the time, Iron Man, because they were curry trays.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
It's
because
very
the
good.
art, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I would have penalised Matt there for just saying Iron Man and not the Iron Man Mark 1 armour.
We're not all Marvel nerds like you, Keith.
As built in a cave. But, so we'll
Do not give us the entire history of Iron Man.
Go for the second one, right? We've got this one, which is
Good old guy.
I don't want to ex-member of the team,
Yes.
ex-member, with a blue shawl and a hammer.
It was a tarp, I believe.
It's a bit of tarpaulin. Obviously, you know, he's got some of the looks himself, you know, which is quite lucky, which I think carries most of what the character is. Shanice is stuck already.
I mean,
I just feel like I've got the error sign going across my face.
Just to remind you, Shanice reviewed all of these.
Error
Worst
404.
bit.
Page will not load.
I do know what this one is because I was here when Shanice was looking at it earlier as well. But
Why have I forgotten, Sam?
Matt, stop leaning off the picture as well.
Well, I'm going
We
to
wanna
say
see you.
Thor.
Yeah, you did correct.
Yeah, that was it. Well done.
I won't tell you who he was created by in the original comics as well. Yeah, so keep leaning in towards Shanice, Matt. You're going off camera.
Because the microphone's there.
Right, so the next one we've got is, and I personally can't remember what this is. Look, Ryan will probably have to say.
Oh, yeah, so my opinion on this is Batman Ninja.
So
Or
we've got
Ninja Batman.
we've got a domino mask. We've got a
Former presenter George. Yeah.
a long stick with a hilt built into it and a cape.
So I believe it is Zorro.
Wow, Matt's 3 for 3 from Matt so far. Well done, George. That was a really good one. So this one I've thinned down because it is again.
You almost
another
turned it
member of
completely
the,
around.
Yeah, no, I'm very bad at this.
So
Oh,
Mr.
it's Cosmo
Philip
from
Ellis.
Fairly Odd Parents.
So he's got a wine glass, a necklace of some kind, and a paper crown.
I stick with my answer.
it is former presenter Philip Ellis, whose book will be out in all good bookshops at
Yep.
this time.
And
Love and Other Scams, by the way.
Also
Go check
with short hair as well.
it out. Yes.
Yeah.
Knowing Phil, is it going to be like Cersei Lannister or
It
something?
is.
If I actually reveal the second half of that photograph.
Perfect. Yes.
Wow.
So
Matt's,
good.
Matt's too good at this. Right. Then there's some horrendous person here now with a
Interesting.
fake leather jacket, a audio cassette which features the words "awesome mix," and some yellow foamed headphones.
I just got it. Lady in the Van. You look beautiful, Keith.
Yeah. This is back in the days. Any guesses? I'll be gutted if you can't get this one after getting all of them.
Go on, Sam.
Bill and Ted.
Star-Lord, I believe.
Yeah, but I was going to say, like, is it Peter Quill?
Peter
Yes.
Quill, yeah. That's good. Right. And we've got our inimitable host, Mr. Ryan Parrish, in a hoodie with a bow and arrow.
It was a very cheap cosplay that week.
Is that Robin Hood?
No.
Hawkeye.
No.
No, you should know this. Ryan
Green Arrow.
has a great love for a TV show that features this character, as played by Stephen
Amell. Yes.
Yeah, I've never watched it. Is it Green Arrow?
It is.
And to be fair, Sam gave me that answer.
I'm going to save that one.
It's gonna be
I
one
was
of the
here
three.
before.
It's going to be.
I'm going to feature one that hopefully Matt will get.
Yes.
White Garden Bow.
Hopefully Matt gets this one.
Maybe if we got
So, having been passed over to star in a movie featuring a character that looks like this, it's two dudes in a green and red t-shirt with hats with the letters M and L on. Some reason being passed over for Charlie Day and Chris Pratt in the movie. We have these
Follow.
two. Any ideas who this is, Matt?
Couldn't tell you. Absolutely couldn't tell you.
Sam, Shanice, any guesses?
No, pass.
No, I'm not sure. That's a
couldn't-
really hard
I-
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
you've-
recognise
It's
him
too
from a
niche.
blue
I think
shell
it's
against
too niche.
Yeah, it's the CBBC duo of Chuckle Brothers. No, it's actually Mario and Luigi.
Chuckle Brothers portraying Mario and Luigi.
From the popular gaming franchise. We've got another. This
Sam's
is
not
another
allowed on
shocking.
this one.
Hopefully, if you're watching YouTube, you'll be able to see this one. So Sam can't answer this one because he knows because he's in it. So this is again.
Game of Thrones related, I believe.
Don't give it away. It's more picnic-related paraphernalia, plates and.
It's plate armor, Keith.
So I'm going to say Jamie Lannister.
I'm gonna say. I think his name's like Ingir from Troll Hunter.
Oh.
Deep reference there.
That's a deep cut. That one. I mean, if you can see this image on screen, there's a lovely Philip Ellis as well in the corner,
Yes.
which his previous character should give this one away a little bit.
Lol, what?
Are you going to reveal it,
It's a
Brian?
Game of Thrones character. I think.
Oh my god, not a pickle then, yeah.
And Sam, you can tell us as that was your costume.
So it's the Hound from Game of Thrones, or is meant to be. There, you can't really see it in the picture, and to be fair, it didn't really come out that well on the day. But I had like a face mask thing on half my face.
It probably
and-
looks bang on.
You
but I
also
don't
had
know.
the hair as well for Jamie Lannister.
yeah,
So
I'd
Yeah.
probably
I'll
do
leave-
it better now.
I'll leave the best one till last. And I've got another one for Matt here. So this is.
You know, you've just shown them the back.
Yeah,
of the
Yeah, I'm such a dummy. Anyway, this is I think it's a.
Marvel Cinematic Universe character.
Yeah, but it's Charlie Dimmock, weed suppressant.
Yes, it was.
It's the Tommy geezer from the same show that he used to do with Alan Titchmarsh, face mask, and a homemade Red Star, and a pair of gloves from Poundland, fingerless gloves, by the way.
Bucky.
It is indeed the Winter
It is
Soldier.
Bucky O'Hare, yes.
Bucky, yeah, Winter Soldier. I mean, you know, if you look at that picture, you can barely tell them apart.
And I am just loving because that is like that was your John Wick phase as
That-
well.
yeah.
That look, you need to bring it back, Keith. You need to bring it back.
It was cool. So finally, what we're going to do, hopefully, Philip
We had
Ellis's
enough
face.
of daddies in the last segment.
So we've got a stocking and some sponges.
Burn patient
and
survivor.
and a red tie. You should be able to recognise there.
The hand gesture, I think, seals the deal.
Yep. So he's making cosplay great again.
It's got to be Donald Trump.
No.
So it is the illustrious star of Home Alone 2.
That was me cutting 2 car sponges in half
Yeah.
to create that Lego head of hair.
And we'll show this one last, which is kind of where the Pound
Yeah.
Shop cosplay idea came from. So this is one of our earlier shows when we were on the radio. So that's Ryan dressed up as any guesses?
It's got it in
Clues in the title.
Where-
We don't want
where-
to say it out of spite. almost.
Yeah, so that's Ryan as the Brumwolf.
Special guest appearance by Dave Massey in the call.
Yeah, so it's all good. So there are some of our previous attempts. There were many, many more,
Yeah.
which for some reason we didn't photograph. I think I can
I
remember
think
why
they're
some of mine weren't
lost,
photographed.
lost to time, put it that way.
My favourite Geeky Brummy photo is still the train spotting one.
Ah, yeah.
That's honestly, I love that one.
Maybe we need to
We
recreate
could redo that one. Then we could redo that one. But as is usual with the Poundshop Cosplay, you have a victim
Yes.
whose task it is to create
Yes.
a character.
So, it used to be £5 budget. So, with
But with the cost of living,
with the cost of living,
It's now £1,764.
so £5 in 2016 was a reasonable budget, but I think the pound shops aren't as cheap as they used
As
to be.
poundy.
Yeah, most of the things
No.
are going to cost £2.
No. So, in honour of our 7th year, we're going to go with a £7 budget going forward. And I think we might do a Pound Shop Cosplay face-off for the first one back.
Ooh, brutal.
And because it's Sam's first show, it's Sam
Okay.
Dun dun dun.
versus Keith.
God damn it.
Dun dun dun.
Okay.
the two creative people. Keith is very Sorry, Keith is incredibly creative with his count.
I literally did an art course, Ryan. Jesus! I mean, I know I work in quality, but damn.
Do you want to have a three?
I know I'm a...
Three-way. Three-way cosplay.
A three-person standoff.
No.
Is the word.
I think three-way cosplay is the name of this segment.
Oh, God.
No, I
I'm
think
sure
it
down
there's a
with the
shop
shit.
called
I mean,
Three-Way
I did creative
Cosplay.
writing as well.
Yeah.
We're all very creative,
Ryan,
right?
you're
all
not
very
being very
creative.
inclusive
No,
right now with the creatives.
what I was trying to say is crafty. Keith is very crafty.
There
Why
we
don't we
go.
just extend it to everybody apart from you and you judge?
Oh, he's very good at judging people, isn't he? Yeah.
£35
I'm not your love-
cosplay. We could go
No,
everybody. If
No,
you want.
let's do a full cosplay party because what Sam literally said, there's fewer parties and we could have a little party afterwards.
Do we want
We
to
can
go
have-
with £7 cosplay parade?
Yeah.
Is there a theme?
No.
The theme is you cosplay.
Yeah,
The
sure.
theme, the theme
Category
is you
is-
have £7 and you need to make something recognisable out of £7 worth of budget.
I really think we should do this. Whoever uses paper plates, we'll just rip it off them and have cake afterwards. It's fine.
Okay, I'm up for that. If you want to do a full-on cosplay parade,
That's really
Lee?
cute.
I'm
you
going
up
to
for
get
that?
£7 worth of ingredients and make myself a cake. I shall be a cake. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Everybody
Well,
up
that
for
sounds dangerous around Shanice.
Yep, we all up for that then. I shall judge, as I'm very
we've
good
got-
at doing apparently.
Please say we've got a month.
Yes.
I feel like he's going to wake up tonight thinking about that like a little... Oh, I'm judgmental. Oh, you look terrible in that. Oh, why did she wear it? I could just imagine you tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Viv, dinner wasn't that good. You're all going to get wrecked.
So join in, and you'll have to watch this one on YouTube, I think. But we will have Poundshop Cosplay off.
Yeah.
Are we bringing the cosplays in?
Oh no, you're wearing the cosplays.
Wearing them in? Okay.
We'll do it so you can dress up and then come around the.
Just so I'm clear.
I can see if I can get a smoke machine so we can
Yeah.
go full on. Today, Matthew,
I'm not
I
dressing
will
like
be.
Matthew Kelly. Put it that way.
Oh my god, can we all individually do the dance to Caramel Dancing? The wow, wow, I'll keep your
I
face.
don't know what
Yes,
that
you do. It's deep in your memory.
I'm
It's in the core
wondering.
memory.
I'm wondering how many of us know what that dance is, because we definitely do.
They all do. They just don't remember they do. They've rejected it. It's
Matt
just
clearly
Just
does from his mouth.
2006 memes.
I'll teach you the moves, darlings. It's
Okay.
fine.
It's very simple.
Okay.
So join us next time for cosplay off.
And Caramel Dancing.
It's-
Caramel dancing.
What have
Just
you
just
done?
to sum it up, it is a hip sway and bunny ears. I'm just going to say that.
I could, honestly, all you got to do is just
There were
move
loads
those
of
two
them.
little hips and bounce your little head.
But you had the leak spin as well.
And then da, 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 da.
But you
Yeah,
gotta-
we'll bring in a leak.
What you have to remember is I have the articulation of a Lego figure. So that's my dance moves.
You can
That's
robot,
not
Keith.
true.
You can robot.
Da, 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 dee, da,
No, but
da.
I can imagine you being like a beast on Dance Revolution.
Same, actually. I could see him smashing through the floor like it was Dragon Ball Z and smashing through the ground as he finishes on a high score.
S tier.
Like young Neil and Scott Pilgrim.
Oh god.
Ooh,
no.
Nega Keith. Yeah.
Anyway, join
Let's
us
end this
next.
segment now.
Join us next time for the return of Poundshop Cosplay.
Yep.
Been a while since we've done one of these. Thought we'd have a quiz. And go with the movie theme quiz. It's been a while. So I've gone onto the internet and stolen somebody else's quiz because I'm lazy. But
It's a BuzzFeed.
everybody's got buttons.
Is
apart
this a
from-
personality quiz?
Apart from Keith, who's just going to scream, I believe, like a goat.
Yeah.
So,
Can we all simultaneously make our sounds?
yep. Sam, do you want to start?
Meh.
And all together on a 3, 2, 1.
Meh.
Perfect.
There you go. Right,
Sorry,
so
headphones listeners.
first person to 10 points.
Oh.
Question number 1. Which animal is killed in Fatal Attraction?
Meh.
Matt?
That was
That was
Keith.
Keith.
Oh,
was
rabbit.
But
It is a bunny. I'll give you rabbit.
I didn't do that
Well, it
one.
was also funny, but I thought that was just too, like, you know.
It's what's in a fucking saucepan pot? You know, boils
I
it
love
up,
you.
boils because it's a bunny boiler. Awful.
Question number 2, in honour of Scream 6 coming out this week. What was Scream originally called?
I only have a joke answer, and I'm not going to
Give that answer. Go on.
It's literally just shout.
Whisper.
Nope.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is stab.
Nope.
I'm not sure.
No, you
No,
lost us, mate.
nobody?
No, go on.
So the original screenplay was called Scary Movie.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So please details. And
Well,
if
no,
you just say it was
but
going to be called that, I'm going to.
That's where Scary Movie, the parody, got
the name.
got the name from. That's why I knew that
Yes.
story.
So why did they choose not to give it? Oh, I'm assuming that's not known information.
Yep.
Amazing. Yeah.
Right. So, what is the name of the fashion line created after Derek Zoolander in Zoolander?
I'm embarrassed that I don't know.
I've actually never seen Zoolander, so
I literally watched it 2 days ago. That's
I know.
ridiculous.
No.
The Govel?
All gone?
Derek?
No. Derelict.
Oh, of course it is.
Will Farrell says that much better. Derelict. Sorry.
The judgmental one has changed.
Which holiday do Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal celebrate at the end of When Harry Met Sally?
What holiday? Oh, New Year's. Oh, New Year's. New Year's. New
It
Year's.
is.
Yeah,
Yep,
classic.
Shanice off the mark. This quiz is going to go on for a while, isn't it? What are the colour of the two pills that Morris gives to Nick?
Blue and red.
Keith was first on the film.
Mother
What she
lover.
said.
So Keith was first. Keith, do you want to give her the answer?
It was blue and red.
Was it Keith? Didn't know.
Yeah. Which one would you have taken?
Ooh, the green one.
Just take both.
See what happens.
Live life at the edge.
Which Final Destination movie has a number of deaths that take place on a roller coaster?
Meh. 3?
It is 3. Storming ahead, Keith.
Yeah, 'cause it was cool Final Destination 3D, wasn't it?
Yes.
Here we should dock a point for that.
What was the first movie to feature a flushing toilet?
Was it Psycho?
It is Psycho.
Mm.
What was the first animated movie to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars?
Beauty and the Beast.
It is. And off the mark. Well done, Sam.
It's better than what I would have said. I would have gone Spirited Away because I'm weird.
Right. Which celebrity's face is the Michael Myers mask in the Halloween series based off?
What's his face? William Shatner.
It is
I was
William
Is
Shatner.
hoping he wouldn't get
actually?
that.
I was hoping you'd forget the
Painted
name
white,
so he
yeah.
could.
Horrifying.
Which of these nominated musicals won the Oscar for Best Picture? Wizard of Oz, La La Land, Cabaret, or West Side Story?
Wasn't it La La Land?
It wasn't La La Land because that's the answer they gave out wrong.
West Side
Yeah.
Story.
It is West Side Story.
Yeah.
Well done. So.
Directed by Robert Wise.
You got baited.
I did. It's the face. It just in.
It was actually Moonlight, but
Yeah.
still.
In
Wait,
Ci-
you talk about the Nicolas Cage film with Cher?
The classic musical
Moonlight.
Moonlight.
in Citizen Kane, what was Rosebud?
Meh. Sledge.
It was a sledge. Yes.
Didn't work.
Which one of these is not one of the 7 dwarfs? Bashful, angry, dopey, or Doc? You buzzed too early.
Meh.
I did Angry.
Angry, yeah.
Give it to
Oh,
Sam.
yeah, we'll get some.
What brand of underwear does Marty McFly wear in Back to the
Lee.
Future? I think Lee got in there
It's
first.
Calvin Klein.
It is Calvin Klein.
It's heating up.
In Bambi, what is the name of Bambi's skunk friend?
Flower.
It is Flower.
Oh,
Well done, Sam.
that's so cute. that You knew that.
Disney stuff.
I just got Thumper and nothing else in my head, and I was like, "That's not the sky."
Sam heads into the final 5 required if you're going to get to
Ooh.
10.
In Clueless, how does Cher choose her outfits?
with a TV monitor thing, and it picks up a wardrobe, and she just scrolls through and it picks it out. I know what I mean. I know you know what it is.
It's a computer. I'll give you that.
Thank you. It's a fantastic film, amazing soundtrack.
In The Devil Wears Prada, who's the only fashion designer to make a cameo? Is it Valentino, Ralph Lauren, or Calvin Klein?
Meh.
Oh,
Loren.
No,
Valentino then.
it is Valentino. She needs to finish this quote from Gone with the Wind. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a...
Down.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though Shanice buzzed too early. I'll give it to you. Wait till the question's finished before buzzing. In The Hangover, Phil, Stu and Alan spend all of their time looking for their friend Doug. Where do they eventually find him?
On a roof.
Oh
Bit more
no, that's the second one. Oh.
The roof of the hotel they were staying
Yes.
in? Great.
Well done.
Come on, Sam.
Included in the 2018 version, how many versions of A Star Was Born have
Meh.
been made?
3,
No.
4. God
The
damn
Star
it.
Has Been Born.
Yes. Would anybody like to buzz in on a guess?
2.
4. Well done, Sam. You scored a point.
Thanks, Keith.
Matt, I gave you away. Like, which one did I forget? The silent one. No, there isn't a silent one.
I absolutely would have
What
gone
is
with
the
3 if
thing?
you hadn't.
Do you
written it.
Christopherson and Streisand.
It had Lady
Gaga
Gaga
and-
in it and Bradley.
Rocket
Oh,
Raccoon.
Cooper.
and he's like a drug addict or drunk or something.
There's been 4
Yeah.
apparently.
Judy
Well, I only
Garland
have
and
Yeah.
I literally saw scenes of that
Yeah,
one
but
because
there have
somebody I
been
knew was
4.
into it.
Okay.
In Look Who's Talking, what does John Travolta do for a living?
He's a taxi driver.
He is a taxi driver. Well done, Shanice.
Whoa.
What is the name of Chris Pratt's character in Jurassic World?
Owen Grady.
It is Owen Grady.
I knew he'd get that. Jesus Christ, he's run away.
Do you know
proud
what?
about
I
him.
should have got it because I have played a bit of
It's
Jurassic
always
World
the names that
Evolution
catch you. You
2,
just sit there
and
and
his
just like,
character
only
is
a bit
there,
while
although
watching
it clearly
film,
isn't
but
him.
You've actually retained it. Oh, well done, Sam. You're so clever. That sounds sarcastic. It's really, truly not.
Who played Adam Reed in The Adam Project?
Meh. Ryan. Deadpool.
Gosling.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
I had to pull that Reynolds out of my head there.
Brian
Which
Deadpool.
Ryan? What is Meg Ryan's username in You've Got Mail?
I'm literally a woman. I should know this. the little shop around the corner or something. It's something to do with the bookshop, isn't it? Oh,
Close.
little bookworm. I'm a little cutie with short hair. I just,
Give up.
yeah.
It's Shop Girl.
I was gonna flick it, but I was gonna break it.
I heard You've Got Mail and my hand disappeared from the buzzer.
Which actor plays the adult Simba in the 2019 version of The Lion King?
Oh.
I can picture him. I know his name. If I say Childish Gambino, will you accept it?
No.
Donald Glover.
Yes, it is.
Just say
That got it that time.
See, I was getting ready to buzz in, and then you said 2019.
Yeah.
I went, oh, I have no idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, yeah, that's,
Whatever.
that's why I buzzed.
I just went Matthew Broderick.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
all against. I will just say this now: we're all against Sam. He's
Yes.
one away. Like this can't happen this early.
So everybody else is on double points now.
Yeah. Yay!
So
Thank you, Brian.
in Rear Window, 1954 version, what is Jeff Jeffries recovering from when he thinks he witnesses a murder
Meh.
across a
Broken leg.
It is a broken leg. Double points for Keith.
Oh.
Finish this quote from Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings. One does not simply walk into...
Mordor.
It is Mordor. Sam was one.
I was
Well
trying
done,
to wait as long as possible so I didn't get told off for buzzing early.
Well done, Sam.
No, that was very
Although I
good.
will be going to the quiz ombudsman over storm weather. What,
Were you swearing as well then?
almost.
I'm going to have a
What,
so much
what made the
fun
family come back?
bleeping.
Weather, which is what?
I-
A storm is
You
what?
didn't say bad weather though.
No.
It still came back for weather.
If I was the quizmaster, I would have given you that. For what it's worth.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
So the last question I was going to ask, because it was pretty much reading out.
This one's worth 1 billion points if anybody can get it.
Yeah. In Ice Age, what is the name of the saber-toothed tiger?
Diego.
Yeah.
It's Diego.
I mean, he's still one. God damn it.
Thank you. Well done, Sam.
Well, at
There is
least,
no
at
prize.
least I got the toilet question right.
Ooh, what were the scores at the end?
So Sam got 10, Keith next with 7, then it was yourself, Janice, with 5, then Lee with 2, and then Matt with 1. Sorry, Matt. Oh, yeah, that was good fun.
Nice. We've got to start doing it with you, you know. You've got to start
Well,
moving around and getting someone else to answer the questions. You've got to get involved in the game.
Willie could run a games-related one.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I'll do it. Somebody else can do the quiz next time.
Yeah, I'll do a comics-related one.
Oh, God, no.
That'd be good.
Zero scores.
Zero.
for
I'll
five.
be the first person to get
If it's
2.
about Scott Pilgrim, then yes.
The first person to get 2 points.
4 hours later.
First person to get
Somebody
any
get a
points.
This is where Keith just pulls out all his knowledge, and he's like, "Oh, who is the artist on 1974 edition of?"
In Ron the Space Knight.
Yeah.
On page 7, panel 4.
Yeah.
What brush pen was used? Fuck me, that'd be awful. You would as well. You would. You're laughing, but you would.
But I will say, at least our new film reviewer is the one who got the film knowledge.
Very relieved that I'm not. Yeah, just completely failed at that set. Yes.
I could feel the anxiety. I'm like, oh god, I've got to perform.
It's time for One Geek Thing, where we all pick one geeky thing out of our recent experience to share with the rest of the team. Let's start at the other end of the line. Sam, what was your one geek thing?
Okay. Well, I like mentioned earlier, I always get quite into the Oscars, and I've been trying to figure out some predictions for what I think is going to win. But as part of that, I had a look the other night to see if I could track down some of the animated short nominees. And one of them is a fantastic little film called An Ostrich Told Me the World Is Over and I Think I Believe It.
Because we couldn't decide with that one, or what was it?
My Life of
Dicks.
Dicks.
My World of Dicks was the two choices, yeah.
But yeah, so My Year of Dicks, first of all, not as rude as it sounds. Actually, in fact,
Is it just many people called Richard?
no. So it's so I think it's in 5 parts, but only 2 of I could only find 2 of them on YouTube. But it's a sort of it's almost like an animation of kind of angsty teenage girl's diary kind of thing, where she's being let down by various guys that she goes out with. And that, what I've seen of it is brilliant. I really enjoyed that. But the Ostrich one, rather than saying the whole name out in full every time, is basically, if you've seen the film Box Trolls, there's a fantastic post-credit scene where, because it's all stop-motion animation, but a couple of the characters basically have an existential crisis where they start to theorise that there's someone controlling them, and the frame rate slows down so that you start to see the people actually moving the figures to do the animation. And
Such a simple thing, but it was
it's
so clever,
genius,
wasn't it?
Yeah. And Ostrich is basically taking that concept. So it's most of the film, you're sort of seeing it through the lens, or the kind of viewfinder of a camera that's filming this stop motion piece. And it's a guy wandering around in an office, starting to realise that the world might not be the actual world. And like, one of his colleagues has only ever seen it from the top of the desk, and he looks under the desk, and it's just like on a little armature with no legs and that sort of thing. As the title implies, he later meets an ostrich who starts to make him question his reality. I won't say what happens or spoil it or anything. It is on YouTube. It's only about 10 minutes long. Well worth a watch, and just really inventive, fun little film.
If you can share a link.
Yeah, I'll pop it in
Absolutely.
the description.
Because that's one of the big troubles with the things like the short films categories in the Oscars. It's often really difficult to find them and watch them.
Yeah. So just very briefly going through the others as well. There's The Flying Sailor is also on YouTube in full, actually has far more penises than my year of dicks. Funnily enough.
Just to clarify.
There's
Sailors, penises. Dicks, no penis.
exactly.
I can't say.
There's another one which I can't remember what it's called, but I could only find a trailer on YouTube, and then the final nomination is, if I remember this in the right order, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, which
Yeah, it was on BBC at Christmas.
was on BBC at Christmas and is still on iPlayer if you didn't manage to catch it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well worth a
So
watch.
beautiful.
It was
so
lovely,
really
yeah.
well done. The original book, just the fact that we went from that. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the animation in that is stunning. It's like any frame of that could be lifted out of a Christmas card. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Happily let it be my wallpaper on my PC. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So, on to you, Shanice. What was your one geek thing of the last few years?
Okay, so what I found this month, and I think it's so cool, and I hate it when you find something and you realise that you're years behind everyone else, and you're like, oh, this actually exists for ages. Everyone knew about it and dropped it. It's called Burn the Witch, and it's the series created by the famous mangaka of Bleach, Tite Kubo. So he finished Bleach. Obviously had a bit of a hiatus due to illness. Obviously it took a big strain on him. And then I only just found out because of the beautiful illustration of the manga cover, because they've got a lovely sleeve and it's tartan covered. And guess what? It's a manga based in England, which obviously I, as an English person, bum off a little wee bit because they either do it really, really cheesy or they think we're really damn posh and we're just not posh. But the whole series is based on technically the same universe as Bleach, which I think is a little bit dodgy, because I can understand where you're coming from. You can say with every region they have their own form of mythology, they have like their own folklores, but the premise of like the monsters and creatures in Burn the Witch are so far removed from the mentality of Bleach, I don't think it works them being in the same universe. Burn the Witch is essentially two young women that work for an academy or an organisation for Reverse London. So you have London and you have Reverse London. Reverse London is the magical, mythical world where dragons kind of go across the country and they try to exterminate them. And it's brilliant. Like, you've got dragon insurance. Like, they literally, if a building gets broken, they go, oh, it's fine, dragon insurance, and pop off. Like, it's hilarious. They've got a whole system to it. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. There's only one volume. It was released, 45 years ago. They released a film for it that they broke up into four or five individual episodes. It was phenomenal, and it's obviously got a possible continuous story. Like at the first episode, the whole film ends, and you go, that has a nice progression, character development, all sorts. But really, that was released 4 or 5 years ago. He said it will go on, but he's not choosing to rush himself on it. And it's just stunning. It visually, once again, you're getting Bleach, but you're getting new Bleach. And I'm sorry, you're getting pretty little girls on broomsticks. Yay.
So it
Yay.
always interests me when you think about some of the mangakas, and especially if you're doing Shonen Jump, so like One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, is they are expected to farm out a new issue every couple of weeks
He
for
doesn't
years.
have to do that.
And then that's where you'll miss stuff like this, where he's got really good creative ideas and he's not got a chance to do that. And I can't remember the mangaka's name now, but the guy who does JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, are you talking about Fist of the North? No, that's still going on. There was
But
another
it's
one.
always kind of like you get stuck doing the one mangaka forever
Oh.
because it's so popular, and it's kind of, he experiments a little bit because every reset of JoJo Bizarre Adventure, every season it's a new kind of chapter, it's a new introduction, and that's a different generation. But it's kind of, how much do you want to keep revisiting the same universe again and again and again and again, and keep, you know, basically mining that same world? So I think that's probably a good way of doing it. And you said it might not work 100%, but
It's
having a
good to-
different folklore to dip into.
Yeah, it's not just, this is completely different, has no relation whatsoever.
So you don't
It's
get any
nice.
Shinigami or hollows or anything like that. It's all,
Yeah, it's all like very English culture, folklore. You got your dragons, you got your witches, you've got your mages, you've got all that sort of level of stuff. And he does say that he is going to continue it, but purely at his leisure, and that could be anything for an extra few years before you get another volume. Which, fair play, it means it's never going to be as big or as intense as Bleach. But it's absolutely fantastic. Tite Kubo, Burn the Witch. There's only one volume, but it's a standalone story in itself. Even if there's potential for a carried on story, you could easily have the volume by itself. It's sick. It's so sick. Of my anime friends say it's so basic, and I don't agree with them. But I'm basic, so.
And again, it probably gets attached to that reputation because it's coming from a Shonen Jump mangaka. They expect it to be easy access, low level, kind of cheap, pulpy anime.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Much appreciate it. Matt, what was your one geeky thing of the
So I bought a PS5 and I recently purchased the Callisto Protocol and Dead Space Remake. So I've been playing both.
Ooh,
Completed,
comparison
completed Callisto Protocol, and I'm just going through the Dead Space Remake. Controversially, I really liked Callisto Protocol.
Oh, that's one of us then.
I
didn't.
I get like the things about like the combat and that kind of thing, but it was one of those games where I consistently played it for a couple of days until I completed it, and I got really into it. I think it looked really nice, really well done. It was, it did feel like a Dead Space successor. There were some bits that I think could have been improved. Like I think the kinesis kind of thing was a bit gimmicky and underutilized. But generally, I thought it was a fine game. I don't think it necessarily, on PS5 anyway, I know PC had issues, but I think it was treated a lot harsher than it should have been. I think it got overhyped, obviously, but that's not necessarily down to the developers.
Yeah, because I heard it went down pretty much like a wet fart in a lift for most of the audience. We're expecting Dead Space new, and everybody went, yeah, well, it's just more of the same, but worse.
Yeah, I mean, it had cause things like the combat mechanics, that kind of thing, where shooting isn't necessarily great. It's weird. It's got it encourages one-on-one combat, but then you've also got the weapons, and so the combat system is kind of at ends with each other. But I think as a setting largely, and it's just nice to have that kind of game back. Dead Space Remake as well, going through it, really, really enjoying it. Obviously, as everyone else said, so I'm not going to repeat things, but it's nice to see that survival horror is making a comeback. So obviously, got Resident Evil 4 as well, and Resident Evil 4 is kind of going a bit more ground.
Well, it's this whole thing of remakes versus remasters, and I prefer a remake because then it allows for some creativity on an update of the stuff. Whereas a remaster, it's just, oh, look, it's shinier.
Yeah, and with the Dead Space remake, so Isaac Clarke, the protagonist, is he's talking now, and he's a bit more. In the original, it was very much like he's just going along and doing things. You're like, why? Why are you not reacting to this crazy situation?
Isaac Clarke had one line in the original Dead Space, and it was just,
yeah, exactly. And they've fleshed it out in the best way. Like it's one of those kind of remakes where they've expanded on it. They've kept a lot of the classic things in, but they've also expanded a bit of the lore and made it a bit more.
There is a case for non-chatty protagonists. I mean, recently, Forspoken and Atomic Heart probably are two examples where probably having a silent protagonist might have been a better situation.
It feels a lot more Event Horizon as well, though, than the original, which I quite enjoy. So the soundscape is still amazing. But yeah, so that's been my geeky thing.
Did you? I think because it was released at a similar time to Callisto Protocol. But did you play Scorn?
I've played Scorn.
I've not played, but I've heard many mixed things about it because it's basically just like, isn't it basically like Myst but in hell?
I think it's kind of, but it's less in hell and more you've wandered into the collected works of H.R. Geiger.
Yeah. Just from the aesthetics point of view, in terms of that kind of horror aesthetic, I thought.
Is this the one where
it's
like
quite
you're
short?
Yeah, you're like crawling through the grounds in like brambles, and there's blood like dripping down. Like it's really close,
very
graphic
visceral,
visual.
yeah.
Is that one?
Possibly. I know it's all blood and guts and.
It's much more kind of.
It's
bloody.
one. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where I've been seeing gameplay of Scorn for about. This is probably an exaggeration, but about like 6 years or something. It's been coming out for like 6 years, so yeah, it's on my thing to play, but yeah,
no rush.
It's on Game Pass.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. B, what is your one geek thing and why is it Fatal Frame 4?
So I was about to say, speaking of survival horror games that are returning games from the past, returning horror games from 2008, actually, specifically, Fatal Frame, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, or Project Zero, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, as it is called in 2 places in the European version, but not on the actual opening cutscene, which is hilarious, where they forgot to change the name from Fatal Frame. So Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse originally released for the Wii in 2008, never left Japan. And as a fan of like the first 3 Fatal Frame games that came before it, I was like just so hurt by this decision to never release it in the West. And now it's 15 years later and they finally released it in the West as a form of a remaster. And I am so happy that this has now happened. It's got an official English translation. So like, if you're not aware of like the Project Zero / Fatal Frame series, it is a survival horror game and it's set in Japan. And you fight off ghosts, basically. So if you think of things like The Ring and The Grudge, that kind of ghost is what you're up against, and you have to fight them with a camera. So a big part of the gameplay is that you basically have to have the ghosts come right up to your face, so that you can do the most damage possible with the camera, and not waste a whole load of film. But these games they're really atmospheric. They're basically just all these like old, sort of crumbling Japanese places that are just full of ghosts, that can attack you through walls and all this sort of stuff. So it's always really tense. But Fatal Frame 4, like, I played it on an emulator last year because I was like, I want to make a video about the series. So I was like, how am I going to cover Fatal Frame 4? So I played it on an emulator. It's such a better experience playing it in an official version where I'm not having to basically like rig a DualShock 4 to be a Wii remote. And because they've obviously, adjusted the controls so that it works for actual controllers and not Wii remotes. Like it does fit, it is sort of a bit clunky 2008 Wii controls sort of thing, but it's they've managed to sort of tweak it enough that it plays pretty well. And as we were talking about, like gyro aiming and stuff, like the camera controls do use a bit of gyro aiming, which actually works really well. But it is just such a really good, like, atmospheric game. I'm probably maybe about halfway through at this point, and just having a really good time with it. It's just like, again, really solid horror game, really solid sort of atmosphere in the Japanese aesthetics and all the rest of it. And it's just like, it's just so good to have it finally.
So I know they're all going back to your video from a few years ago. They all have like a weird story connection between each one of the games, but they're not
so
distinctly.
For the most part, like so the first three are sort of fairly well connected, but the fourth one is very standalone. There's no real connection between it and any of the others. I think part of that is because it never left Japan and that sort of thing. But so obviously, if you've never played any other game in the series and you want to sort of taking an interest in this one, this is a perfectly reasonable one to jump into because it doesn't connect with anything apart from like sort of the general lore behind the camera itself. But that's not super important. But
I think even with the original games, that like you didn't really necessarily have to play the previous ones. But like I played Tormented, and that was the second.
That was the third one.
Third one, yeah, and fantastically wild. Obviously, as a kid, I don't care if there was a connected story. I was just like, this is mad. There's a ghost in my face.
Yeah, because the third one I'd say is like the most connected one because one of the protagonists was the protagonist of the first game, sort of thing. And obviously you're revisiting places from the first two games in a few places, but 4 is completely standalone. It has absolutely no connections whatsoever. But it's a really enjoyable experience, but also just, I'm so glad to finally be able to play this officially after 15 years of waiting.
Question, is it now your favourite amongst the 4?
Probably not. I think 2's still the best one, but like I think definitely like playing through this one, it's up there, I think, in terms of atmosphere and story. And it's definitely an improvement over playing on an emulator last year with its fan translation that compared to an official one, definitely I'm seeing the flaws in that fan translation even more now. So they did their best, and I'm not going to slag them off, but you know, they were fans who were doing it in their spare time, so it's forgivable. So
that's out on Switch?
It's out on basically all modern systems. It's on PC, PlayStation, Switch, and Xbox. Cool. I've been playing it on PS5. So
awesome, thank you. Keith, what was your one geeky thing of the last few weeks?
I'm going to select a TV show. that originated in America on HBO Max and has recently finished its 10-episode run here in the UK. It's a TV show that is based on the true story of the gentleman pirate Steve Bonnet.
Oh, so it's
and
not The Last of Us.
and his encounters with Blackbeard the pirate. And the show is called Our Flag Means Death.
Is this the one with Murray from
It
Flight of the
features
Conchords?
Rhys Darby, who previously most people will know as Murray in the Flight of the Conchords. He's also done masses and masses of voiceover work for many, many cartoons and whatever it is.
He's in Half-Life Alyx, I believe.
Yeah, his star is an ascendancy because he really, really blows everybody off the screen in this particular show. And he's up against Taika Waititi, who plays Blackbeard the pirate. He's surrounded by a host of other kind of up-and-coming UK comics, also quite a few kind of pretty big-name Americans who pop up in cameo roles throughout it. And like I said, it's basically based on the true story of this guy who becomes a kind of gentleman pirate. He's not really into it for the piracy, he just likes the idea of being a pirate on the open sea. And he meets Blackbeard the pirate, and things happen. And in the TV show, basically, it's about the love between two men and how Steed and Ed become almost inseparable, and how they change each other in terms of how they see life and how life should be conducted. And even though things don't turn out quite the way you would expect by the end of the show, there's a bit of reversal back to kind of where they were. But it's all studio based. So even the sea-based stuff and the ship-based stuff is all based in the studio. But it is an incredibly beautiful set of 10 half-hour episodes. And Rhys Darby really has kind of set himself up as a really great character actor. He's phenomenal in this show, even up against somebody like Taika, who can do. His Blackbeard is very. It's just awesome. He looks the part completely. Although his costume is basically Mad Max, including the leg brace that he gets. But I'm not sure what the historical accuracy of it all is. But it's incredible. It's a really beautifully played show. Everybody that's in it has got really nice little character moments and stuff.
Oh, is it a comedy?
Yeah, it's a
dramedy.
It's a dramedy.
Yeah.
But it is beautiful. It's beautifully shot, beautifully written. Every performance is on point. And it's a great show. And it's one of those shows that's entered my kind of
I get that. I get that.
cuddly TV. Things like The Detectorist and Wurzel Gummidge, like just to show that you just want to embrace and love, because it is just so brilliant. And it was kind of hidden away, and I think people who knew about it kind of found it when it hit the BBC, but it deserves a much bigger audience. And if you can find it on iPlayer, you should go and watch. I wouldn't binge it. I'd take it in so you can just kind of
Sit and appreciate.
Yeah,
Treat it like
kind
Animal Crossing.
Yeah, just kind of
Leisurely enjoy the ride.
enjoy each episode as it comes. But it's a brilliant show. Rhys Darby
sold
and
it to me, though.
Taika Waititi are phenomenal, but all of the kind of supporting cast are fantastic as well. And I can imagine in kind of Emmys and Golden Globes at some point it should pick up some awards, because it is great TV. And because everybody's talking about all the other big shows, the big kind of like showy shows, you might miss it, but it is definitely worth 5 hours of your time. It's absolutely brilliant.
And what's it on, sorry?
It's on iPlayer in the UK. If you're elsewhere, you will be able to find it on HBO Max, but it was transmitted through the BBC here.
Awesome, thank you. I suppose it's my turn.
It's
then.
your turn.
So, went to the cinema. Quite a few films on at the minute. Some of them not so great. One of those is Cocaine Bear. So
You said it's not so great.
it's reasonable. So it's Elizabeth Banks is produced, I believe.
She directed it.
Directed,
Did
yeah.
she directed
She
it? I
directed
thought
it.
Lord and Miller directed, but I think they might have done the screenplay.
I think they produced.
Or they produced. There we go, got them the wrong way around. So it's very much a film.
Based on a true story.
Inspired by true events. So if
So-
anybody's
Is this
ever...
your actual choice of the week? Is Cocaine Bear?
It's not my choice, it's my One Geeky Thing. My choice would have been Mandalorian, but we talk about that far too much.
I think the description that's best from my perspective is it is exactly the film that I expected it would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So there you go.
I believe the true events are some bags of cocaine fell out of a plane, a bear ate them and immediately overdosed and died after about 30 seconds. I mean, in that 30 seconds, I can imagine it was the ultimate apex predator. But that was the real life events. Taking a slight turn on those, bit of a twist in this one. So, weirdly, it's an Americans reunion because Kerry Russell's in it. Matthew Rhys pops up at the very start of the film as a character who doesn't really last that long. And what's her face? I can never remember her name. Character actress. Oh, she's also in the Americans anyway. So it's kind of a weird Americans underlying reunion episode, which is weird. And then you get Mitchell from Modern Family as well in it.
I was also thrown by the fact that the very first victim of the cocaine bear is Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes.
Is Hannah Hoekstra, who is a Dutch actress that was the face model for Aloy.
Yes.
So I recognised her face immediately, and I was just like, what are you doing?
Yes, it's also,
you should do better against the cocaine bear. You fought robot T-Rexes.
and as Sam reliably informed me as well, Krista Hugh, Tormund Giantsbane from Game of Thrones pops up as well. Because I couldn't recognise him. I thought he looked a lot younger than he was in Game of Thrones, which threw me off.
Also should have done better having fought a zombie polar bear in Game of
Yes.
Thrones.
It's also got O'Shea Jackson Jr., who everybody forgets exists, I think, until he turns up in a film. And unfortunately, it's actually Ray Liotta's last screen credit, I believe. So...
I don't think Ray would have minded. This was his last film.
No. I mean...
He's having a great time in it, from what I can tell.
I mean... The things that I love about it, it's 90 minutes, so it doesn't mean that you're sat in the cinema for 3.5 hours waiting for a plot to develop. Mm-hmm. It's very much, the plot is, a bear's had a lot of coke, and he's very angry. That is the plot of the film.
Yep.
And that's all it needs to be, to a certain extent. It's a fun romp. It's just what it calls back to those 80s kind of VHS movies, which you'd watch with your mates when you probably weren't old enough to really be watching it. But it was just purely there as fun. And if you want to watch what pretty much is a horror film of people getting mauled by a bear for 90 minutes while it's high on cocaine,
The story
fulfills that need.
The story is a delivery method for just gore, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is surprisingly gory for a 15 rating.
Mm.
I was quite surprised when it was a 15, to be honest. But yeah, so also says frequent drug use in the
it is 15 due to drug references on the BBFC card at the beginning.
Surprisingly,
I'm like, really?
Yes.
Would never expect it.
And it's called Crazy Bear in France, so I'm assuming they removed that for one particular reason. But it is, if you want 90 minutes of switching your brain off and watching a bear strung out on cocaine mauling people, it fulfills that need completely. It was a film which I don't think I ever wanted to be made or ever thought it was conceptualised of being made, but it's good fun. It's worth a watch.
Now you've mentioned that it's called something different in France.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's called things different elsewhere. Like in LA, it's Executive Bear.
I don't know. I mean, Lee, you watched it. Sam, you watched it. What's your thoughts on it?
I mean, exactly what you were just saying. It's it's a lot of fun. There's no character development beyond alive to dead, basically. There's barely any plot, but it doesn't need any. You know what you're going in for, and if you're going in for anything else, then you might be disappointed. But
Yeah.
So would it
why
be
would you?
a good double bill with Cujo?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what was that one with them?
As Big St Bernard went around mauling people.
Well, which is
Probably not as gory.
Which
as
is
this one.
appropriate because Stephen King was high on cocaine when he wrote the book and doesn't remember writing it.
I was trying to remember what was the one with the angry baboon. This is one of those terrible 70s movies where it was like a baboon escaped from a lab and that was ripping people's faces off.
Yeah, I can remember what that is. I can't remember the title of it.
Yeah. But yeah, so it lives in those genres of animal is angry, animal wants to be angry
Yeah,
at people.
it's like I said, it is exactly the movie I expected it to be. I was like, I'm going into this knowing that it is going to be a really dumb movie that's just going to be just ridiculousness for 90 minutes. It leans into the ridiculous premise, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. I had fun with it, and
That's what I kind of got with Barbarella. And like, I went in knowing it was just going to be one big softcore, and I was like, this is going to be softcore pornography with a of fantasy, and that's exactly what I got. I was like, it's every scene I was just like, why does she have to get naked? Why is there an orgasm machine? What's going on? Why is the angel bedding her? Why is she in sheepskin? Like, it was just, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, it is one of those turn your brain off and just be on for the ride.
I think in the
I'm just glad it wasn't released in 4D. Put it that way.
and I think in the run up to the Oscars, it's good to know that sometimes films can just be dumb as F, really,
Yes.
and you can enjoy them.
And they should also just give Cocaine Bear an Oscar just for the sake of it.
Yeah, I mean for that title
I don't know.
alone.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm
best
hoping-
named movie of the year. There you go.
I think there is already an Asylum knockoff, but I do hope we do get like Cocaine Bear 2 and Cocaine Bear 3, and it's like ex-members.
There is
of the
potential
family.
for a
There is,
sequel. Put it
yeah,
that way.
Yeah, I hope we do see some sequels.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
I mean,
Or just go through the Animal Kingdom.
Haven't they said they were going to do
Cocaine
something like
giraffe.
cocaine
Yeah.
panther.
Cocaine Elephant?
Yes.
I mean, that'd be.
Cocaine elephant would be quite.
Cocaine meerkat. Cocaine meerkat. It would be phenomenal.
Don't they run kind of like, you know, insurance companies?
It works.
Which is going to be funny because like, they always show up before a film.
The
At least
weird
in my
thing-
cinema they do.
The one weird thing about the movie, which took me forever to work out, Alden Ehrenreich's in it. I can never get his name right. The guy who played Han Solo, and it took me forever to work out. It's like, you're Han Solo, aren't you? That's
Yeah,
you.
I saw his name in the credits and was thinking back, like who he actually
Yeah,
was.
It's Han Solo with a mullet and
Yeah.
a denim shirt.
I've just realised what they should do is do Cocaine Bear in different animals, but in different countries.
Mm.
So like when you get to Britain, it's Cocaine Dormouse.
Cocaine
Whole
Badger.
different-
Cocaine
Cocaine
Badger.
Badger would work.
Yeah,
Or,
but
or Cocaine Fox.
I think badgers don't need cocaine to just be off.
I think you need almost like a B movie cinematic universe. Cocaine Bear versus Sharknado.
Yeah.
It's just getting all introverted like bears. Cute. So that was your choice then, was it, Ryan?
That was your
Yeah,
geekiest thing.
It's
It
your-
was,
it's
it was
your-
my one geeky thing. I thought for Lord and Miller to produce, I thought they might have written it, but it was just kind of a Lego movie, Cocaine Bear.
Definitely not the same audience.
No. And Deadpool in somewhere. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Geeky Brummy. If we're not impartial, we will be replaced by highlights next time. Keith, where can we find you online?
You can find me online at at hardlook_hotel on Twitter, and without the underscore pretty much everywhere else. Hive, Mastodon. I don't post on there because I
Just have an account.
Yeah, I do. I am posting more pictures on Instagram. Strangely. Yeah. So yeah, just Hard Look Hotel. If it's not Duck Dodgers, Duck Dodgers, Count Duckula. They're both ducks. Easy to mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably me.
Awesome. Lee, how about yourself?
You can find me on YouTube at Bob the Pet Ferret. You can find me on Twitter doing updates to the channel. Bob the Pet Ferret, but my usual personal Twitter is the Cheap Ferret. You can probably also find stuff I've written on various video game websites at this point. So, currently publishing stuff on Gamer and Silicon Era now. So I'm expanding my empire.
I've just got cocaine ferret in my head now. Just imagine a ferret on cocaine. They're already insane.
Plain fatal frame.
Don't give me ideas. This is too high effort for what I do. But it's in my head now, and I'm like, maybe.
Matt, how about yourself?
Where can you find me? You can find me.
Where can you find me?
Where can you find me? You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Matt Level. Most talk about esports and retweeting Geeky Brummy stuff. You can find me on Instagram at matchstick_Matt, where I haven't even taken any selfies because I've been lazy. And you can occasionally find me on Geeky Brummy as well.
Awesome. Shanice, how about yourself? Where can we find you?
Cool. You can mainly find me on Instagram at idlecreep101, but keep an eye out because on TikTok I'm now starting to edit videos of manga recommendations on TikTok with the hashtag with the what's it called again? The handle.
Yes.
The handle. The handle idlecreep, all one word. Just if you're into manga and you want to hear about nice shonen and good shoujo, then yeah, pop on.
Awesome. And Sam, how about yourself?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at SDEdwards89. And I don't post there very often. I just had to look up to remind myself what the the name was, but I'm on there. And I'll be putting an Oscars prediction blog thing on e-i-a at weebly.com, I think.
I'll put the link in the description.
Yeah.
And you can find me at Ryan Parrish on Twitter, which is just pretty much the Geeky Goings on retweet feed. But don't forget to follow Geeky Goings on as well, which is our sister account, which Viv looks after, which gives you all the events coming up in the Midlands area. So a mix of bands, films, independent cinema,
Shows.
Yeah, go and check that out. It's really
Food.
good. Yep.
Drink. Yep.
Wine. All those things. But you can find us all at geekybrummy.com, at geekybrummy on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Hive, which we've done nothing with, Mastodon, which we've done nothing with, Geeky Brummy on YouTube, of course, and wherever you get your podcasting services. Thank you for joining us. As I said, we'll be replaced by highlights for the next few weeks because we're all in solidarity with Keith leaving. So. But for then, goodbye.
Like, follow, subscribe.
I miss your long hair. I realised how much I missed it when I looked at the Poundshop Cosplay.
Well, when
pictures.
it's all grey, we'll come back. So,
You're going to go full Gandalf.
all the way down.
Full Gandalf.
I want you to do that when you get old. You're not going to, please. You look so good with long hair.
It did look luxurious in uni,
It
didn't
did,
it?
honestly, it was so sexy. Once again, see, I've got a radar for it.
See,
Such an effort to watch, though.
mine was called the Mane of Loveliness.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a tiger.
Yeah.